Welcome to the Enlighten Up podcast, where I am going to take you into a deep exploration of what it means to exist in this current reality. We are going to raise your vibes, open your mind, expand your heart, and dive deep into the wondrous mysteries and possibilities of this lifetime. There's been a spiritual catalyst that has set in motion the awakening process of many across the globe to return to the knowingness of self and unite what has been separated. Together, we're going to bring light into that darkness. We're going to remember the joy of living. But most of all, we're going to turn up the volume of our own eternal power and do the thing we're here to do. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Enlighten Up podcast for a very impromptu live broadcast on my YouTube channel, which I will, of course, upload as soon as I can to all the podcast platforms when we're done. But today I kind of want to talk to you about something that is going to be shifting dramatically over the next many years, but we're already going to be starting to see it play out. In fact, I feel like we have already seen it since especially 2020. And that is about predictions and their accuracy and what that actually means for our future. And the reason why I feel that these predictions are going to become less and less reliable is because things are speeding up so fast, but also it is time for each and every one of us to go within and begin to alter our outcomes from our own state of being and take our future visions into our own hands. And that is something we're absolutely going to see a lot more as we prepare for Pluto to enter into Aquarius. Now, before I get into a lot of that, we have a very important day today. Today is election day here in the States. And I know that there have been a lot of different predictions of what's going to happen. And obviously, look, it's a 50-50 shot for the most part. You know, half of the people are going to get it right and half of the people are going to get it wrong. What is so interesting about this particular election and why there has been such an interesting viewpoint on who's going to win, who's not going to win, who has the upper hand. The truth is, when it comes to both candidates, is that when it comes to at least the astrology of their chart, which can be used to predict cycles, and it's very reliable in that sense. It's not exactly going to tell you what specifically is going to happen, but it can tell you a lot of information. And what I have noticed from observing different astrologists who are reading the charts, and whether it's they're predicting Kamala has the upper hand or whether they're predicting Trump has the upper hand, the truth is it's so close. I believe that actually the astrology at this point doesn't even matter. And what I do believe is being undervalued in everyone's prediction is the energy of free will and seeing how is this being shaped. So when it comes to tonight's results, which I get the sense that we're not going to really know by the end of tonight. We may know by the end of this week. It may be somewhere later in November. But what I think is really important for everyone to be aware of is that when the results are this close, and when I say the results, I mean the energies are too close to actually know what's going to go down until it actually goes down. And again, 50-50 shot. So, I mean, those are the odds. Let's just be very honest with one another. But this means it can go either way. This means something isn't really set in stone. And this speaks to what I feel is going to be a prominent theme we're going to be looking at more and more over the coming years and couple of decades. So when the energies are this close, what is the most important thing for each and every one of us to do is to take everything with a grain of salt. Listen, everything's information, and information is valuable. What is not valuable is giving your power away to the information, in a sense that when you have information that shows such an interesting parallel of possibilities that literally could go either way, it's up to each and every one of us to look within ourselves and decide what is true for us. What is it that we want for our future vision? And are we actually aligning with those energies, or are we giving away our energy to something that we're maybe in resistance to? And this is an interesting conversation for each and every one of us to have with ourselves, because it forces us to get very honest. It forces us to have to look at the underlying factors of what's going on inside of our own awakening, truly. And that is something that Pluto is going to be forcing us to look at as it gets ready to move into Aquarius in just 2 weeks from now. It moves into Aquarius for the next 20 years and will not be in Capricorn for the rest of our lives, anyone's life again. So with Pluto moving into Aquarius, I want to just talk about why accuracy of predictions is going to be very much in fluctuation. And when I say this, I'm not necessarily speaking to the accuracy of predictions for you as an individual. It's more of predicting global events, outcomes, things of that nature that really are affecting a grander scale of things. So when we look at what Aquarius is as a sign, Aquarius is it's a fixed sign, but it represents lightning. And so lightning, it's like things can happen suddenly. Things can happen in a blink of an eye. That means change is extremely unpredictable. And Pluto coming into that sign is forcing us to really go through some very deep transformational change that is obviously going to look at what does Pluto represent at its core power, okay? But it's also forcing us to really look at what is within our own subconscious, deep down, that we need to purge, that isn't helpful to the future visions of our world. And so Aquarius, again, is this lightning speed of change. And this is why you can get a sudden breakthrough. This is why where things can feel like they're never moving, and then boom, all of a sudden everything just takes off and it's like a flurry of activity. This is one of the things that we're going to be seeing as we move. Pluto represents our soul. It is the planet that represents our soul in evolutionary astrology. And so many of our souls are going to be going through lightning speed awakening changes that are coming through suddenly. And Aquarius does represent our future. It's our future vision. And it represents freedom. It represents innovation. It represents individuality, being able to break free of systems in place. So while Pluto was working on breaking down the structures of the hierarchy of those who are in higher power, now we're going to also see the breaking down of structures of we the people, right? And that's going to manifest in a whole bunch of different ways, which I'm going to talk about a little bit of them. But at the end of the day, this is really going to heighten your awareness of your free will in this reality. Not utilizing our free will at the magnitude and the potential that we're capable of is something Pluto and Aquarius is going to be teaching us about. It's going to be awakening us further to areas where we thought we were awakened, we thought we knew, and it's going to be kind of like a blind side where we're like, wow, I thought I knew, I didn't really know much at all. I'm still an infant. And big changes are about to happen. Well, when I say about, I mean over the next 20 years, but we're going to start seeing them already. I mean, look at what happened with Pluto in Aquarius just for a short period of time. Look at with ChatGPT and all the different AIs that have come out, which is only going to increase. And I know that scares some of you, but it reminds me of when I was a teenager going into my early 20s, so late teens, early 20s. This is when cell phones came out. And I remember being in the car. One of my girlfriends, her mother worked for one of the biggest telecom communications in Canada. And so she worked for what was like Bell Canada back there. So she always had like a cell phone on her. And I remember, someone was calling on her cell phone while we were driving down into the city. And I was like, get that cancer producing thing away from me, right? Like, I don't want to have anything to do with that. There was something about the phone that I was so scared about. And now it's like, there's something like I would not be able to conduct my life in the way that I've built it without it. And it's not to say that there aren't great things about not having a cell phone around us at all times. Trust me. But there was such a resistance. I probably waited 4 to 5 years before I finally got my first cell phone because I was such in resistance to it, to the point where it's like, no, like I can't actually function in this world properly without it. And that is kind of how I'm seeing AI. It's like, yes, everything's got a downside to it. Everything has a downside to it, but it's up to you to choose how you want to work with it and how you want to utilize it. And at this point, being in resistance to the change and the progression of our future is only going to eventually hurt you in the long run, in a sense of you won't be as far. It's almost like you kind of get left behind and you're going to have to play catch up. And that is a choice. And again, there are positives and negatives to everything, right? So Pluto and Aquarius, we're going to see dramatic changes in innovation, technology, things of that nature. Remember, though, one of the greatest technologies is your skin suit, being as a human. And so I do believe that what's going to happen over the next 20 years is we're going to awaken so rapidly, so deeply to our own technology of what we're capable of doing. It's something that, when it comes to shifting your reality, you don't even realize what you're actually capable of doing until you start to tap into little things. You get glimpses and blips and you're like, whoa, how did that happen? And I feel like what we're going to start to recognize is what we're actually capable of. And as we do, we're going to be shifting and changing our reality so quickly that it's going to almost shift a lot of the systems that we've been so used to using to affect our future vision. How do we predict things, right? And so understanding that the the flaws in the system aren't so much flaws in the system. It's that we're going beyond the systems now. We are evolving so far beyond our old systems that we've been using collectively in groups for the world, that everything is going to be going through its own transformation. It's going to not operate at the same levels. And that's because we as a collective are going to rapidly undergo a massive awakening while Pluto is in Aquarius. And that is something that is I think important for each and every one of us to pay attention as we go on our own spiritual journey, to understand that even if certain predictions come true that maybe not on the surface are in alignment with your reality, that doesn't mean you still can't affect your own personal reality in a way where it almost gets like you create a buffer around you, and that you're not as affected as someone who is giving away their power still very much unconsciously to what is. The systems are absolutely going to be changing. So when we think about Aquarius representing freedom of the people, this is about individuality, right? This is about, when we think about the Aquarian energy, it is about individualizing yourself, stepping away from the groupthink or the systems that are in place that just don't work for you. It's a little bit of a rebellion energy. And it doesn't mean that you're necessarily going against people. You might be breaking away from certain systems for the betterment of people, but it may not just be seen right away. And so when we kind of go through this deep kind of breaking free of things, that also means that what we depended on, what kept us safe, what made us feel secure, is starting to crumble. And that causes a very chaotic energy that each and every one of us will go through, of course, to varying degrees, depending on how willing we are to let go on our own. And so when you have Pluto coming in and affecting this idea of what freedom really means to each and every one of us, like, is freedom truly dependent on the structures outside of us, or is freedom truly dependent on your internal world? Is freedom, what is that freedom to you, and how do you work with it? How do you operate on your own systems of freedom? And breaking free, creating your future visions, is knowing that, look, there is so much that there's only so much you are capable of seeing into the future, right? Because at some point, there's a limited amount of information that you are able to process and understand. And so what is available to you to work with is, in essence, limited to a degree. But as you start to transform, as you work with the information that you are given, and how quickly you decide to go through those transformations, is going to absolutely shift the availability of information to you. So the more that you're undergoing this transformation, the faster you get to newer information that will affect your future vision. So you see something right now from where you're at as a future vision, and maybe it looks really good, maybe it looks really bad, I don't know, but you're seeing something. As you start to step into that and allow for the transformation to occur, and allow for more awakening to occur within yourself, this will start to give you access to newer and newer information that is going to even innovate your past vision. And so staying open to knowing that what you are seeing right now is only a fraction of the possibilities, but what you need is more access to the information. But you yourself have to be more expanded, have to be more open, have to be more awakened to be given access to it, allowed to see it, so to speak. And that's by design of our reality that we live in. And so we come in knowing that there are certain limitations that we're working with, but those limitations, in a way, are catalysts for growth, right? They push us to grow more. They push us to expand ourselves, our ability to see beyond what we're currently seeing. So the death of old structures is something that we saw from a hierarchical position with Pluto and Capricorn. Now we're going to see it within the systems of our groups, organizations, things like that, where we all come together. And one of the things that I think we're going to really see the death of, which I will be so happy about if this does happen, is mob mentality. So here is, when we think about Pluto, we can think about power. And then, of course, Pluto wants to, you're going to learn a lot of karmic lessons through Pluto if you're abusing power. Mob mentality is abusing power of the group over the individual. And that is not of the awakened mindset. And so when we, and it's important to understand, where do you maybe slip into mob mentality where you don't even realize it may be your own thinking of like, I know I'm on the right side of history, and so this is what I need to participate in. And it's just mob mentality in itself, whether you're on the right side or you're not, is just not an enlightened state of structure of our beingness as a group. So what I'm seeing is that we're going to see the death of that because it is an abuse of power of group people, and learning how do we respect individuality as a group is going to be really important. And that is in itself going to shift things very, very rapidly in our reality. When there is such a respect for the individual journey, while also respecting that we are a collective, this is when deep, deep enlightenment can, what's the word I'm looking for? Penetrate the consciousness of us all. And so with today's election, this is actually a great testing ground. However way this is going to go, I know that I myself have been given a vision that if it goes one way, I have seen what might come, which a definite possibility that I feel very strongly is something that could happen. But again, how accurate can that be when things are, when so many of us are being forced into a deep conscious awakening collectively? Pluto in Aquarius, like that's in 2 weeks from now. And that's where it's going to take root. So Pluto representing deep transformation, representing power, wanting to always get to the truth. Pluto allowing for death so that new life can come forward. Pluto wanting to work in the unseen areas, what is behind the scenes, really getting to the nature of like, what is hidden? What is hidden in our collective consciousness? What is hidden in our own awakening that is maybe impeding our awakening? Looking at the areas of your own subconscious mind is going to be very, very key through this. But liberating yourself, breaking free, knowing though that to do so means that old structures must die, must crumble, and that will create a sense of where am I landing? What is next? There is going to be this like, where do I step forward now kind of energy. And that is really scary. And that's why so many of us resist change, is because at least if we're on a path that we're familiar with, we know where we're going to end up. Even though maybe we're bored with that path, even though maybe we don't like where we end up, but there's comfort in knowing that. So to increase the comfort of knowing is going to force each and every one of us to go within and to start enhancing our own connection to our intuition, to our higher self. Aquarius is definitely, I think, a sign that awakens the higher self within each and every one of us. And instead of allowing outside predictions, whether they're global predictions or maybe even individual predictions, if there is an outcome that you are not excited about, that you're like, you know what, I'm not really keen on going that route, know that you do have power to shift part of that vision, if not all of that vision or outcome. It's a matter of believing in yourself, trusting in your own power. And that is going to be something that we have to collectively look at, is like, where did we give our power away in all areas of our life to people that we believe are maybe have our best interests at heart? And maybe they do. But that doesn't mean that someone who has your best interests at heart is necessarily what's best for you. In the sense of, okay, liken it to this. There are good people in this world, a lot of good people. They may do some bad things, we all do bad things, right? But just because someone's a good person doesn't necessarily mean they're good for you. And that's where I feel like is something that we're going to have to address in getting really honest, of breaking free of our own systems in place that we're operating on, your own internal system that you operate on that keeps you stuck, that doesn't allow you to move forward, that doesn't allow you to follow your destiny, or slows down or impedes that path for you. When we think about Aquarius in the tarot deck, the star card is representative of Aquarius, right? It's the water bearer. And this star card is very much about being able to follow that future vision, that destiny. It's about the big desire, the big wish that you have in your life of attaining. And this is something where we're going to have to be looking at, where have we given our power away that is impeding that vision, that is perhaps stalling out our progress of getting there. So our future is going to be changing dramatically. I mean, Pluto is a very intense planet. It loves drama in a sense. It's very dramatic, just because of the intensity level. Like Pluto can go like from ice cold to steaming hot, right? That is very Plutonian nature. And so when you bring it into this lightning aspect of Aquarius, then you have very, very intense awakenings, very, very intense and dramatic breakthroughs, very, very intense and dramatic change. And so what does that mean? It means it's going to be very, very difficult to have the kind of accuracy that we've had up until this point. I mean, 2020 in itself, and therefore, like the last 4 years, we have seen a massive awakening in our collective. So many people that I talked to were awakened because of what happened in 2020. And I feel like whatever goes down from this, it doesn't matter which way it goes, it's going to be an awakening, which way you slice it or dice it. It's just going to be different pathways of getting there. And that means that there's going to be a lot of instability. Well, what do we have happening next year? We have Neptune and Saturn moving into Aries, which is a very initiative sign. It's about, it's time to change it. It's time to start something new, right? And of course, Mars ruling Aries always brings in some form of conflict. And the reason why it's conflict is because of all the change that is happening. Aries is one of those mutable, not immutable, but it wants to change things initially, right? And so it can be scary. It can create a lot of discomfort. A lot of people will resist that. And so, yeah, that's where a lot of the conflict comes, because there's a need for change. And we're going to be seeing 2 major planets moving into that sign as Pluto moves into Aquarius, where it's further enhancing this idea of chaos, of upheaval, starting something new, bringing in conflict. And I'm not saying this to freak anyone out. It's necessary. This is all necessary. And a lot of the best things that happen to us come through a big disruption in our comfort zone, right? And so don't get freaked out about it. Don't think like, don't feel in resistance to it, because ultimately any kind of resistance to that level of change is only going to actually make it worse on you. There's being able to tap into the adaptability factor, your ability to kind of become a chameleon, that shape-shifting energy that we absolutely are capable of and learn more of as we awaken, is going to be a huge strength in moving forward. And so this is actually this idea of predictions becoming less and less accurate. And I, look, it's going to be harder and harder to see things so far into the future just because of how quickly things are changing. But it's actually good news. I think this is great news because, again, it's putting the future vision, the power of accuracy, the future vision in the hands of the people, not in those who we consider leaders. And that means you have more control and more power over your reality. And this just also means that so many of us are going to be awakening to much more of our psychic and intuitive gifts. If we understand how to shift things, how to tune in, how to get better information that is offering us value to change something in a way that maybe we would have never been able to do before, that absolutely is good news. Your own psychic abilities are about to skyrocket. The children that are born under Pluto in Aquarius, over the next 20 years, are going to be major, major change makers when they get older. Major, major change makers. So they're also going to be coming in with very, very psychic gifts. So this is where, in essence, our connection to Source, our connection to God, our connection to the Creator heightens significantly, which is great. In essence, it takes out the middleman. We don't need the middleman. None of us are going to need the middleman, so to speak, as much as we have previously. Yes, there's nothing wrong with leaning on others for second opinions, third opinions. I actually think that's sometimes very valuable. But this is a time to start trusting yourself. This is a time to start going within and reassessing your own ability to tap into your power and how you use it for your future, how you use it to innovate yourself. How are you using your own technology as a human? Pluto in Aquarius is absolutely going to bring forth ET contact. That is for certain. This Aquarius, you think of like, okay, the star card, the stars will be amongst us. Those of other stars will be amongst us. They already are. I mean, they already are. So many people are starting to make more and more individual contact. It's just going to become something that is undeniable globally. So when it comes to this idea of predictions, think about how when you hear something that you don't like, and that's not to say that it's not true, okay? Because sometimes we need to hear things that we don't like. Sometimes they are a wake-up call. But if you're actively working towards something and you hear something that you don't like, it's not that you should be in resistance to it. You should be like, okay, how do I shift? How do I become part of the solution that shifts the energy in a different way? That is also something that I really like about Pluto coming into Aquarius, is I feel like many more of us are going to be much more focused on solutions, ready to innovate, genius. This is where we're going to have a lot of genius birthed over the next 20 years. Great inventions are coming forward. But think of this on your own level. How do you innovate given the information that maybe you've received? But also know that at the end of the day, what matters? At the end of the day, what matters most is your perception of what is happening. That is so important. Remember, Aquarius is vision, future vision. What is your perception of what is happening into the future? Are you only seeing doom and gloom? Are you seeing innovation? Maybe if you are seeing innovation, is it coming at the hands of maybe some blessings in disguise? Who knows? None of us really know. I mean, unfortunately, we can buy into this idea of utopia too readily and too easily, but utopia doesn't really cause a lot of change, doesn't cause a lot of growth. It's a vacation, you know? So with all that being said, predictions do have positives, but they also have negatives. The positives are that they can help you prepare for something that may be coming down the pipeline. And how you choose to prepare for that is very individual, very, very individual. Okay, whether you're preparing to adapt or you're preparing yourself to shift the outcome in some way, it's totally up to you. But there is some ability to, foresight is important. It is important. But also know, because we're coming in where our souls as Pluto coming into the sign of Aquarius are going to be undergoing lightning speed change, quantum change, that there's no running away from. Like, Pluto does not allow you to run away from those things. Pluto's like, it's time to face what you need to face. Whatever has been hidden, you will now see. And that is scary on just a personal level, but of course, on a global level, that can be very scary. Even though that's something we deeply want to see, we don't really know what has been hidden from us. How traumatizing is that actually going to be to some of us? And so know that with this lightning change of our souls coming into this revolution, innovation kind of energy, this freedom, free will is going to be a paramount idea for you to explore on your own spiritual journey over the next 20 years of how you are really truly implementing that. and how do you change your own systems to enhance your free will, to give you more access to it, more access in a sense of basically removing the barriers that you've put in place unknowingly, unconsciously, that actually limits your free will. This is something that we're going to absolutely see a lot of. And so the good news is that when it comes to the power of the people, this is about us changing the world from within. This is about going through the enlightenment or awakening of your own power, of your own truth, to deeply change the future visions. And how do we also respect the individuality of each person while also respecting the collective nature that we're all here together? And that's going to be something that we're going to have to work through and balance. And we're going to go through a lot of changes around that. With this, I will say the one thing that kept coming into my mind out of nowhere when I've been watching all these different predictions, and everyone's giving very valid information. It's all very relevant and all very valid, but the one thing that no one has really truly talked about is how close the energies are. Like, here's the thing about astrology. Astrology helps you understand the energies so that you know how to prepare for what's coming and not get overwhelmed or not get caught up in things. But nothing has power over you unless you give it power. Astrology is not meant to be this thing that no matter how the things are aligned, unless they're very specific fated events, which, you've already got a contract with anyway, unless they're very specific events, you can shift how those energies work with you. And it can be as much as the stars have an influence on us, do not make any mistake about it. You have an influence on the stars, on the planets. It cannot be a one-way street. It absolutely cannot. And so what I have not seen any astrologer yet bring into the picture is that it all comes down to the free will of people at this point. This is where free will is so heightened in its ability to shift a timeline. I really don't, I don't know how this is going to go. I have a sense, but again, I don't feel like that sense is rooted in anything rock solid. I'll be very honest with you. It's just too close. I think it's folly to say, oh yeah, this person's going to win on a landslide, or this person's going to win on a landslide. It's way too close, way too close. And it's all going to come down to what are people choosing to do or not do. Here's what's really interesting. There are people that will refuse to vote because they don't want to be part. They're not signing on the dotted line of engaging in that kind of system, which I totally actually understand. I completely understand. But at the same time, voting is so important because we've seen such dramatic levels of cheating happening. Which they've always cheated in elections. There's always been some level of cheating. It's just been astronomical lately. And there's only so much cheating though that you can do until you get caught, where it's so it's almost like, okay, these numbers are actually impossible. It's like saying I have 2 apples and I have 2 oranges and the net result now is 7. Okay. It's impossible. It's impossible. You can't. You only have 2 oranges and 2 apples, right? So you can only have 4 pieces of fruit, but the results say there's 7. This is why it's so important to not allow your vote to be given to a system that is cheating. So there's different ways of looking at this, because so many people don't vote because they think, well, what does my vote mean? Or it's not going to make a huge difference. It's this, if there's any election where it makes a difference, it's this one. And it's because the energies are so close. It can tip anyway. And it's up to you to exercise your free will, well, to participate or not participate, right? But also know that not participating is also meaning that, you can't really cry at the results if you don't like them, if you didn't participate. Like, you know what I'm saying? But again, like we all make our own choices, and there's certain consequences that people are okay with, and that's an individual thing. But I think that it's important to recognize that. So as we move into Pluto into Aquarius, this is like, where are you exercising your free will? Where are you not? And I don't just mean with elections. I mean in every aspect of your life. I'm just using the election as an example. It's just an example, just because, well, it's today and it's a very prominent theme in everyone's mind right now. So it's easy to kind of wrap your head around. Where do you give your power away to shift the outcome or not? And again, energies are very important. It's not just about what we physically do. It's about what we're also energetically doing. So we can't deny that either. In fact, that's probably one of the stronger elements, but let's face it, one of the elements of manifestation is physical action. It's like one of the things that you need to also engage in for the manifestation to actually occur. So, with all that being said, expect for the next 20 years of our life to be so dramatically change oriented. Everything that we've built structures on, well, not everything, but a lot of things that we've built structures on collectively are going to have to come crumbling down. I assume we're going to see a huge transformation too in social media, because that's very Aquarian, in how we utilize it, how it's used against people. And we've already seen how, like, there's ways to take your power back, but think about all of these things as we move forward. And I want you to think about your own ability to innovate your own reality, innovate the choices you're making. Every little choice matters. This is where we sometimes get too focused on the big grand event, when the grand event cannot occur without all the little micro events that lead up to it. And so if you're not participating in those micro events, which could be very important choices that may seem nominal to you in the moment, you are essentially not utilizing and giving away your power of how you're shifting and changing your reality. The big event always occurs by the unseen. Okay, here's again, Pluto is the behind the scenes energy, looking at what is hidden. What are all the things that you don't really see? The micro things that are just so difficult to see. Those things matter. Don't diminish your power in the little events, the little things, the choices, the decisions, the effect of your energy from, like, and I know this sounds a little bit ridiculous, but even like an hour to hour basis, a minute to minute basis. And I'm not saying get anal about your energy, but you know what I mean. Being responsible. Look, this is the other thing. Power to the people means we're going to have to get way more responsible for ourselves. Way more responsible. And that means we're going to have to start looking at every little choice or decision that we're making. And that's a good thing. That is a good thing. It's going to feel cumbersome and tedious in the beginning. But pretty soon, the more you start to do something, the more it becomes automatic and it becomes part of your natural rhythm. So, with all that being said, let's see how today plays out. But again, the way I see it, no matter what happens today, none of us can truly know how that pathway is serving us for our greater good in the end. Because we're evolving. No matter what, we're evolving. We're not going into the abysmal parts of hell, okay? Even though it may seem like that initially, we are evolving. We are transforming. We are getting more and more enlightened as a collective, which means it's just, I wonder how this really is going to play out, because I do feel like we're going to start to see things unfold in ways we've never seen them unfold before. So the blindfolds shall be lifted one way or the other. That much I am certain of. So anyways, all that being said, guys, if you want to explore your own power and have one of the most transformative journeys of your life, I definitely suggest coming to the 3-day 180 retreat next May. We are 50% sold out. There are only a few tickets left. So if you'd like to secure your spot, even with a deposit, I'm leaving the link in the description below. And I will be live on a podcast this Thursday. So I will share it with you guys in the morning on Thursday. If you want to jump in, I'm going to be talking more about this and how to navigate these energies. And by then we'll kind of have a better idea of what's going on. So that'll be an interesting show. So I'm going to be on Conflict Radio this Thursday, and I will share the link with you guys. It's going to be live, so it'll be a lot of fun, and we're going to be taking questions from the audience. So guys, stay true to yourself. Keep your power concentrated within you, okay? Don't let it disperse everywhere else. Don't let people or outside events or things influence you. Always stay focused on yourself. I think one of the greatest things that happened to me personally, and I know, as a collective, I don't like what happened from the last election, but what it did for me was it forced me to start focusing on how I want to change my own life. How do I get more empowered? And I've had some of the biggest transformations in my own life that I've ever had in just the last few years. And it's because I decided to stop giving my energy to all of this other stuff going on in the world outside that truly is just the same story, a different day, different characters. And eventually it does get boring. So if you want to spice up your life, start going within and start putting all of your energy and attention into changing your reality. You'll start to get really in tune to the Pluto Aquarius energies that are about to come forward permanently for the next 20 years. And you could even be part of the way showers. You could be part of, helping others, tap into their power. This is how we do it. First we focus on ourselves and we learn how to break free individually. And then we start to help others and teach them how they may be able to do it, or at least provide certain steps that allow them to do it and then figure out their own way. And so that's really important. So guys, with all that being said, thanks so much for tuning in. Mary Ducina will be here next week for the full moon in Taurus, which is going to be a very, it could be shocking. It could be out of the blue, sudden changes, surprising for sure. Expect surprises around this full moon, but there's also some really nice energy that's feeding into this full moon. So we'll see how it all plays out with Mary next Tuesday. And then after that, I will be having a guest back on to talk about something very, very important. And again, whatever happens today is going to have a huge influence on that. So we'll see what happens. Guys, I love you so much. Have an incredible week. Stay zen today. Stay zen. Don't get caught up in all the commotions. There is going to be an uproar one way or the other. We just don't know what side it's coming from. So, just be whatever it is, just be with you. Okay. I love you guys. Have a